Hi everyone, I'm Michaela. I'm the Learning and Development Specialist here at Ampcontrol. Just thought it was a good opportunity to inform you of some of the things that we're looking for when we're hiring apprentices and trainees into our business, and some ways that you can support your students to actually make themselves a more employable person when it comes to the end of their school. We really put a lot of work into hiring apprentices and trainees here at Ampcontrol, and what we're looking for is students that have a portfolio of work. If they've been working on projects or they're working on something at home, that they take some photos of those projects and actually keep a portfolio of that information so that when they come along to their interview as part of our selection process, it's really easy for them to show us some of the things that they've been working on. It doesn't necessarily need to be in support of their trade that they're applying for here, but as long as they can show us that they have a dedication to actually doing some work, whether it be in school or at home. It's also really important for students to make sure that they do some math. Mathematics is something that they will have to do as part of their trade, regardless of whether that's in electrical, electronics, mechanical or fabrication. So it is important that they actually maintain a reasonable level of mathematic capability to support them when they do go into TAFE. We offer a lot of opportunities here to students in regards to work placement and work experience. Anything from a couple of days in our engineering teams, if that's what their interest is, to a week, at least a week a year for students that are looking at getting into a trade pathway. The important part about that is they actually get to make a really educated decision on whether or not that is something that they would like to do for their future. That's important for them. It's also really important for us. We get something out of it as well. Our people get to mentor a student, coach a student and teach a new person in their team how to do things. When it comes to how we retained all of our apprentices throughout COVID, which we're very proud to have done, we made sure that we supported them through TAFE. A lot of their TAFE went to an online learning environment, which was quite tough for some of them. But it was important for us to make sure that out in the workshops they were getting the practical hands-on support that they needed, and that if they needed extra support with some of the online learning modules, that we were able to provide them a safe and quiet space to be able to do that work. I'm going to hand you over now so you can hear from Jared and Paul over at our technology business. They're going to talk to you a bit about what they do with apprentices in their business and show you through some of the different parts of equipment that apprentices and trainees would work on, or even work placement students when they come in. Thank you and enjoy.
So typically with work placement, if a student comes on site, they would be basically buddied with a trade or a production employee that's experienced, and they wouldn't leave their side. They'd run them through all the processes of the build, ensure things like safety are number one, and then following processes, using tools correctly. And we'd tried to get them experience in different areas of the workshop, so they are across a number of products. So we wouldn't just utilise them in one area. It's basically building up their confidence to work in a team environment and ensuring they're doing that safely.
Excellent. You actually get them soldering and assembling, or just?
Yeah, so they'll be doing various tasks, can be stripping, crimping cables, soldering, using a multimeter, and that'll be in conjunction with someone supervising the whole time.
Excellent.
With our apprentices, in terms of electricians, they will still be partnered up with key individuals in the workforce until they get that confidence and experience up. We'd branch them out onto larger scale jobs, which may be wiring a larger panel by themselves, and then get them involved in some of the testing and verification of those systems they're building. So they may be building singular units to begin with, but we like to integrate that to get them the understanding of the whole system that product might be utilised in. So each apprentice will go through a formal learning program where they are reviewed and provided feedback every 6 months. So they won't just be, thrown in the deep end, provided no feedback along the course of the first year. That feedback will be constant and will ensure them to develop, to progress into the second year. As they progress into the second year, we would then, I suppose, the work they might receive might be a bit more complex. We would then build that confidence and ability for the apprentice, I suppose, to work on those larger systems and progress through their trade accordingly. They will utilise e-profiling, so each week they would submit cards that the leading hand or myself as supervisor will verify. If work they've done through the week may have required rework, we may address that in the card and provide that feedback on the day or via the card, so that can be actioned.
So with the microscope now, we're using that in then both the soldering and inspection. So a lot of things are getting smaller and smaller in what we're doing. So having this tool or this capability now allows us to do and operate at that level. So this is now what students and our workforce are needing to get across. So using technology in the workplace for what they're doing their jobs. All the students have their phones, all looking at apps. So applying technology now into the workplace is a lot more easier. So in the past you'd have resistance for people wanting to adopt technology or look at that. Here now the workforce is happy to embrace that. So for us here, it's not only in that manufacturing, but also in our service and after. So the apps and data management of our equipment that goes out to the field. So yeah, workers are needing to get a little bit more savvy on what we're doing. And in their manufacturing, so we've got now automated test jigs that the guys do need to use to operate. So that needs to then also be maintained, that needs to be supported. So that's that whole new skill set that we're introducing into the workforce to manage that. So here we're looking at now automating a lot of what we do. So with actual boards themselves, we do need to do a lot of checks on those, and they're point-to-point checks. Now there's literally thousands of point-to-point checks we need to do. So we have automated that process through a bed of nails. So in here you load the board on, and then it cycles through. They've got pins that come up and do the connection points, and that gets your measurements captured electronically, stored for each of those products. So once the board's been done, we assemble that into a final product. Here we have a finished, so this is basically an electrical protection relay. What we have then with the finished product, we're running now through a functional test. So it's now running through a simulation that will now test its functionality. And again, we'll capture all the results and they're all stored.
So you can change the format of this to suit different boards?
Yeah, so what we can do is we can have a common one that might use different locations. The board needs to be generally similar, so we do have a couple test jigs that can do multiple ones, because you might have super large ones. But we can now do a number of products through the one test jig.
Next question.
Yep.
Do you make that yourself?
Yes.
Good stuff.
So our engineers, so we have the on-site engineering team, so they do manufacture this, and we do that because we need to support this product for sort of 20, 30 years. So we need that knowledge in-house in what we're doing. So our engineers design this with our production personnel. We then build this and assemble on-site for that testing. A large part of what we do goes out as certified products. We do need to then maintain that product for our customers. So that means those products do need to come back and be recertified or rechecked. So we do need to have that on-site capabilities. So a lot of our tradespeople then are responsible to carry out those checks and ensure that that product's still right to go back out into industry. And it is regulated, so there is legislation that the products that's being used in hazardous environments does need to come back every period of time to be certified that's still okay.
Do you guys regulate when they need to come back, or do the
No, so that's done by industry. So it is legislated in some of those industries, it's a 4-year period, or if you've had a repair, you need to carry out the checks on those products before it go back into the field. Yep. And there is qualifications for that, so you might hold your trade. There is further qualification needed to carry out those repairs on certified products. So that's a TAFE course to do to the Australian standard for 3800 testing. So another issue is, because we're designing products for a regulated market, being a hazardous environment, a lot of students now coming out that are very tech savvy. They've all got the latest apps on their phone. Now in industry, we can't use the latest and greatest because we're more reliant on proven in use. So that is a challenge for students and engineers alike to see, well, why can't I'm doing this at home, I've got all this technology or access to this equipment, why can't we just put that in industry? The problem is, everyone's got your phone, but you're a beta tester. So what's the thing when a first phone comes out? A firmware update comes out. So with that, the public is testing the product. We can't do that with our clients in hazardous environments. We can't use them to test our products. They need to have guarantees that our products can perform and perform safely. So that's why it's more about proven in use as opposed to the latest technology that's out there with what we're doing. Yep. And that's a struggle sometimes for students to see that I've got access to all this technology. Why aren't we just using that in that industry? And that's the main reason is we don't want our customers to be used as a test case.
So there's like a lag,
Yep.
technology lag?
Yep.
How many years do you reckon?
Yeah, so typically you could be looking at sort of 5 years for some of that lag. With the products we're designing, the actual design of those products may take 2 to 3 years before that product gets out in the field. In industry, in electronics, that is moving very quickly. So it used to be sort of on a 5-year cycle. That's probably getting closer to a 2-year cycle that your electronics and your technologies are changing. So industry, in our industry, being hazardous environment, they're probably sort of that 5 to 7 years behind what consumer industry is at. So with our apprenticeship program, we do that annually. So we typically look to do that around the August. So we were delayed this year with COVID, so we only started that process in October. So with that process, we call for expressions of interest in that period. So we advertise out. We typically get hundreds. So we might have 800 to 1,000 applicants in that. The first part that they'll need to do then is make sure they apply correctly. So making sure they send through their CV, send through their resume and the information as required. The second step is we get them to do an aptitude test. So that's an online test. With that aptitude test, we use that to rank the people that we might call in. Those people that are selected, we call them in for an assessment. So they come in, work with the apprentices and the applicants on site, and they'll do a day of activities exploring functions of the role and what they might do, how well they work in teams, how well they apply some of their knowledge. So after that, we then do a further round of interviews and then we shortlist. So typically out of 800 to 1,000 applicants, we might each year only be putting on between 20 or 30 apprentices. So it's quite an intensive program and quite a tough program to go through to select that.
What sort of things are you looking for when you're looking at those first job applications
Yep.
on your desk?
Yep.
What stands out?
So key things we're looking for is people's attitudes and that. So at the end of the day, it is an apprenticeship. So we're going to be teaching those applicants the skills they need to do their task. What we can't teach is sort of their attitude, their behavioural things. So are they happy to turn up? Do they have conscious on working in teams? Are they happy to look at the safety side of what they're doing? So they're things we can't teach. So those stand out. Also, if you've got previous experience and an affinity to do some of what we've done, we encourage that. We tend to not like people who just woke up one day and say, well, I've seen your ad for an apprenticeship, thought I might do that. Those people who have thought about it, have spoken to people in the industries, have either engaged us looking at work experience, have spoken to our employees. Those people we at least know they understand what the role is and what the career might be. So those definitely stand out to us as potential applicants. So we do have a number of community outreach programs that we do as a business, and that gives us an insight into some of these applicants that may then apply. So with that might be we're doing work experience with local schools or through to full partnerships with schools on school-based traineeships. So with that, that definitely gives us an insight into those applicants and those people who go through those programs that are doing quite well. We definitely encourage those to apply. And they may be skipped through to that interview stage as the final process. So you can get some good insight into how they operate by working with us in that process. So one of the good things with our apprentice programs here is we get involved in all parts of a business. So whilst they work here in the production floor working with tradespeople, they're also exposed to our supply chain. So working in stores, how the materials come in, how that flows through into jobs. We also have our on-site engineering, so how do we design products, how do we service, how do we look after those products. So the apprentices get that whole exposure to a complete business, all those functions that they might work in, so which is really good for the students and really good for us as a business. So they come out of the program a lot more well-rounded and thinking about what their job or their task, how it might impact other departments or other operations on site, which is really good.
Do you ever get apprentices in that maybe start as an electrician and you go, hey, you're better than that type thing, we're going to switch you over to something else?
Yeah, so we do have a number of tradespeople that do dual trades. So on site here we use both electrical and electronics trades. So with what we do, it is beneficial sometimes to have that electrical license with a lot of the electronics you're doing. So having that dual trades, we've had a number of students go through, they've completed one trade and then we've gone on and done the other. We also encourage pathways then into engineering. So we do have a number of our apprentices who've gone through electrical, who then go through, do their Cert 4 and then diploma in electrical engineering, and then they move into some of our electrical engineering roles. So we do offer that career progression and development, and to be honest, they make great engineers. So they've had the practical experience with the trade, they've got our product knowledge, and they can take that through to our clients and our customers, which has been really beneficial. We have about $10 million worth of stock in here. We have about 26,000 different componentry in the stores. So there's a lot. Most of our componentry is small, so it is all our hand level. A lot of our larger space is either used up with packaging or cabling. So most of what we do is in your smaller electronic and assembly. The products we produce are smaller electronic products. Yes, they go into larger systems, but the products themselves are quite small. So we are looking at now, how do we better utilise this space? How do we expand that? Now, stores is a key part of any business. So it's your lifeblood in both the products coming in as well as both going out onto to our customers. So we do about 1,600 jobs go through production every month. So very transactional in what we do. Each job might only be for hours to a day at most in the jobs that we do in production. So we have a lot of moving parts and processes that do need to go through. So our quality controls in inspecting that product, storing that product, issuing that to production to assemble, that product then coming back in, checked and then issued on to our customers.
So your database will be pretty efficient as well, keeping track of parts used.
Yeah, so our enterprise resource tool we use is quite expansive in that, and we have all our operators access to that. So from production workers, stores workers to engineers, they've all got access to the data generated. So we work on the more information or the more transparency you've got with what you're doing, empowers your workforce, and then they can take that to a new level. So they've got information there on the time to build things, on the cost of building things, and the repeatability, so any quality, any manufacturing concerns, we can capture all that there in what we do. We're moving a lot now with our engineers and the data management side, so we are increasing our staff numbers in the office. So we'll be looking at how do we grow our office capability and our stores capability. Production space, as I said, for further growth we look at second shift. At the moment we're operating on a single shift. Ampcontrol's known for being an electrical company, so we have a lot of people who apply for apprentices. We have a lot of engineers who think of us as an electrical engineering company. Now we're moving into the digital space. We're not known for our software and our digital side, so you're competing against your Googles, your Amazons out there. So now with COVID, having that flexibility that we can offer remote working, and we are now pushing in this space, that means we can be more competitive. So that's an area we're looking to grow in, having industry think of us as a software company as well as an electrical company. So here we've got some of the voice-com phones. So these cop a lot of damage in use. So they might be coming in for that they've been hit, might be doing an overhaul, or it might be that the product's not working as it should be. So all those come back to us.
How do you fight off them getting poached?
Hard, and retention's important. So that's why as a business we look at your career development. So offering people pathways, training, development, flexibility. So one thing COVID's taught us is that we can have our staff work remotely and be successful in that. They can be productive, if not more productive. So that hybrid model of working on site and remotely has been good for us as a business. So there's a lot of things we do need to look at in how do we retain and attract people into our industry. It's always an ongoing challenge.
It doesn't hurt being up in the Hunter either, as opposed to Sydney.
Location's good, yeah. Location's good. So manufacturing's moving a lot more into the autonomous space. So we're looking at how do we now embrace that? How do we use technology to better what we do in the manufacturing side? So here we've got a final year engineering student who's looking at a cobot. So a cobot is a robotic robot that can work alongside humans. So we're looking at how can we integrate this into what we do in manufacture. So in production floor, you may recall we had sort of a test jig out there that we're loading boards on to run through a number of tests. It then moves on to another station. So initially we're looking at just doing some simple tasks like that. So how do we automate one of those stations in having boards that can be preloaded, that the robot then grabs, loads it onto the test, run through the test, based on the outcome of that test, do something, and then move on to the next stage with that. So it is a moving area in looking at how do we use technology to best effect in what we do. And these are the skills that we're going to be needing from our operators. So we're going to rely on our workforce in production to look at how do we program these devices, how do we maintain these devices, how do we support and service that in our production space in what we do. So they're the skill sets of the future that we'll be looking at with some of our trades and production workers. So our workforce is not being replaced by robots. We're using robotics to augment or supplement what we do. So we still need the value add and the support and programming and maintenance of this equipment. So it's sort of that change in skill.
And you're getting the robots to do the more mundane.
Exactly. Yep. So we can then use our tradespeople for their trade skills. So we've got our operators concentrating on the high-end stuff as opposed to the repetitive, low-impact operations. So we can get those automated, and that frees up our trades or skilled workers to do what they do best.